and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
That they may be walking by. I think identifying customer issues, if you lead with your heart when you're in sales and you're in marketing, you truly care about your customer, and you listen to what is your heart saying about your customer's business. And I think if you sit still, your heart will tell you. I think especially if you do your research. It can't just be heart. It has to be research too. But if you apply empathy to your research, I think it's unbelievable how you can help your customers.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, let's just welcome everybody who's catching a small glimpse of the Howie and Beastmode pre-podcast and welcome you right into Howie and Beastmode podcast. And just let you know that this episode, we're going a little deeper into what we did last time on customer issues. And we're going to bring some feelings. We're going to bring some emotions. And we hope that it touches you and allows some of those feelings to come up so that they can get addressed.
I love it. Yeah, that did feel like the show. I'm glad you started recording. Yeah, so what we were just talking about is, last week we talked about how do you identify business issues. The kind of the working title, I don't know how he posted it, but, the working title was going to be like, your worst issues can actually help you. He might have made it smaller and cooler than that. But this is basically that was the business side. So that's you. Last week, it was you as a business owner. How can you identify the issues that are in your way, that are causing problems, and that are impacting, a lot of different areas of your business? How can I find those issues, right?
Yeah.
So we really unpack that. We wanted to actually help you guys this week. And as you guys know, we're always self-diagnosing. It's always helping us too. Yeah. But we wanted to talk a little bit about how we identify customer issues. So you kind of caught us midstream there, which I thought was really appropriate. So yeah, I think, what I was saying just when he started the recording was, for me, I like to really help my customers understand things that they don't realize are a problem. And I like to help them find a path. So it's partly finding the problem and then finding the path.
How do you find it?
You deliver both.
How do you find it, Howie, when you're on the phone with them, whenever you're meeting face to face? Are you poking and prodding, or are you just sitting back listening and then just going to slam it on them, or what?
It's a good question. Not slamming unless they can't hear themselves. They're walking by a problem and they can't tell, and they can't hear that they are walking by a problem. Then I might slam them. But even then, it's going to always be with grace. I think if you guys watch our podcast at all, you know that we love our customers, and you know that we love our employees, and you know that we love our businesses. And so we always use grace. But yeah, so a couple of quick thoughts. I think the first, I know you guys caught me talking about empathy there, but I'm going to hit that second. The first thing I really want to talk about is bottom-up research. And that is things like, I want to go read my prospect's Glassdoor. I want to go read their Capterra, their G2. I'm going to go read their Yelp if it's relevant to that. If it's a B2C situation, I want to go read the Google reviews. I want to go read, I might even go as far as seeing if there's a Reddit comment about them. But I want to use external indicators to understand how is that customer doing. I read a whole lawsuit in one case of a customer to understand what had happened with that lawsuit. And it was like 3 years ago, but it was really insightful. Wow. I did, in one case, I did like 10 years of history of looking at the stock earnings. And I created a chart for myself to really understand it. By the time I was done with all that research, I was able to provide ideas of what they were missing. For example, I saw that this particular company, it happened to have been one that I was interviewing with. Every year, they would cut sales and marketing, which they had done every year since like 2012. They cut sales and marketing expense from multiple millions. But every year they cut it, they were okay that year. But then the top line revenue fell the next year. Or even it can even delay. Sometimes it might be flat the second year, but then fall dramatically. So it had this ladder down, and they weren't even aware of it, that their sales and marketing cut was actually having a delayed effect. But I did that. I found that out because of doing a lot of research and reading. So there's a lot of research that you can bring, and then and really looking at the social cues around the web as well is another way. And then I do, I'll talk about mixing it with empathy probably at some point on this podcast, but it doesn't feel like the right second to insert it.
Yeah.
So I'll flip it back to you and help. I know you've helped customers identify things. They are walking right by.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me pause for a second, and we're going to bring up a topic that we were talking about even before we started recording. So everybody can raise their hand that says, I'm not going to do what Howie just said because I'm not a researcher. I love the fact that you do that, Howie, and it's so powerful. But there is a 0% chance that I would do that. That's just not the way I operate. And I know there's a lot of people who resonate with you that are researchers that are so in depth, and their insight is tremendous. But I know for me, in my perspective, that's not it. And I'm often very direct. I'm often very to the point. We get a client on the phone, and we're going through the process. Oftentimes, I want to work from the end backwards. Okay, what result are you looking for? What problems do you think you have? What are you doing right now to fix your problems? Okay, and then I'm just listening the entire time. And as I'm listening, I'm asking pointed questions. I'm asking what I call mirrored questions. So you finish a sentence, you finish something. I'm just going to mirror what you said right back to you and allow you to keep going to get to the root of actually what things are going, and then provide a solution. Here's where you want to go. Here's what you're currently doing. Here's where you're missing the mark and why you're not getting there. And so that's the way I operate.
And it's not either or, it's
No.
any of all those are tools. So let's do that. Let's shift into the part where we're dealing with the customer themselves.
Yeah.
So in our last podcast, we talked about how sometimes we avoid things as business people in our own business, right? So I think if you can see that the customer is used to pain or they're used to a bad process, I think it's okay to point that out and just say, I'll give you one example. I had a company, I worked at a cybersecurity company. This particular retailer had my solution. They had it using it across all their retail, but also in their cloud. So in their website and all that stuff. But the people that controlled the cloud environment were a different group, and they were kind of like really resisting using cybersecurity monitoring software, using my stuff to protect their cloud, to protect their Amazon cloud, which ran their website. And so, the problem, it's kind of like there's a lot of passive aggressive going on. So I think a lot of times you can identify a customer's problem by looking at their own unhealthy people dynamics and finding a way to bridge that. And that's what I did, is I basically got a meeting with both groups together, and I showed the DevOps team that ran the cloud that this security software doesn't have to slow you down, doesn't have to cause a problem. And by the way, we'll give you a login so you have co-control over this, so you guys can not feel like security is telling me what to do and they're going to slow down my work and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times look at the unhealthy people dynamics as a sign of an underlying process or a business problem that maybe you can help with, or at least maybe your product doesn't do that. Maybe you cannot think of a way to tie yourself into that, but even just being a business partner and trying to solve that problem can be quite useful as well. So yeah, look for unhealthy people dynamics as a sign of a business problem that maybe you can help the customer with.
Yeah, as you were talking, you kind of triggered a thought for me about, and this really resonated. I think you said this like 3 or 4 weeks ago when we were talking about pains and addressing them, is what pains are you sweeping under the rug? Or more importantly, what pains are you dealing with because you think you have to? Mm-hmm. There's so much misinformation or just some things that we learned from other business leaders before us as we were growing up. And we just feel like, that this business leader did that. Maybe I'm supposed to do that. And that's inaccurate. There's certain pains in business that you just got to that you deal with that are constant, that, hey, there's not much you can mitigate it maybe at this time, but there are certain pains that we don't have to deal with. We can address it. We can get better,
That's so true. That's good. Yeah. So, back to the people dynamics that you brought up, what are some other ways that we can identify business problems for the customer? I mean, I'll tell you one of them. A lot of times, you're having customer dialogue and they're willing to share issue A and issue B, but they don't know about issue C.
Yeah.
And yet, let's say you're dealing with an accounting firm. They don't realize that every accounting firm that you've talked to in the last 6 weeks has also mentioned problem C. Mm-hmm. And so I think another way of helping the customer is not just listening, which was really, really good, but it's also teaching and showing, here's something that you may not have thought about, and kind of forcing them to sort of learn from that and digest that and get feedback on that. And then I think that's an opportunity, again, to deploy what you mentioned a while ago, which is that mirroring and listening and seeing if it is resonating or if it's bouncing off.
Yeah. I mean, that's where you bring your insights and your expertise from your perspective in business or for the customer, is you can say generally at this point in time, most businesses that are your size or in your industry or have the capabilities that you have are doing this. Have you considered doing that? Or most clients that we work with that are similar to you are doing this. And you're providing something that, again, probably they haven't thought of, that can not only bring up a pain that they haven't seen, but can obviously, like we talked about kind of on the side, they can address a pain before it becomes one.
So good. So good. I think those are all really good techniques to help a customer identify their issues. I think, once you've got a set of issues that you can work on, remember also that it's about them selling, and it's about them selling to their customers and making their customers more successful. I remember I worked with a theme park. My boss told me not to spend time on this particular deal, and I somehow got, eventually spoken with the CIO, and I did a particular business case, which was not only the things that we did as a vendor, but also some observations of how they could use their mobile app in the parks for not just signing in and for like a basic map and stuff, but I also talked about, location-based coupons that could pop up. You're walking by the pretzel stand and you're going to get a 5% off coupon, 10% off coupon, for a pretzel. Or you could use it as a park alert system where it's like an Amber Alert, like, hey, there's a danger over here, exit the park in the east. Here's how to get there. A weather alert system, a gamification approach where you could have an in the park game, almost like when you go to Great Wolf Lodge, they've got the little wand and the little walls. They've turned their walls into like this video game that's a really big draw for people. So, I presented to the CIO, not just my solution, but ways they could actually grow and engage and advance their business through their mobile app in this particular theme park. And I got the deal, and I could see it on his face when I got the deal. So I think, you and I have talked a lot about the pain part of it and finding the problems, but also we can help them find the potential. So the pain, problems, and the potential.
Yeah. So, man, that's such a great idea. And so that's a tremendous way to discover pains, is provide a solution and allow them to tell you why it's not going to work. Have you ever had that happen? Have you ever, gone down to your employees and say, hey guys, here's a new process, a new procedure we're going to roll out. And then you just have people push back. Okay. So whenever you push back, you're telling me there's a pain here. And so we got to address this pain. I'm telling you that and I'll just kind of give you an off the wall example. I'm telling you, a client, that you're charging less than 50% what you should for your product. You need to raise your price 250% right now. And you get freaked out, you get some tension, and you're saying that's a pain point. But I'm telling you that if you do this, it's going to fix other problems.
So good. Yeah, it's actually a really, really good one. And that outside perspective is so valuable. And the fact that you had the courage to share that with your customer, you literally, how much more did they make, like percentage wise, that year that you told them? I mean, it was a big difference.
Oh yeah, it was. I think it was like 300 or 400%.
What?
And mhm,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, and it. So what I did is I, from the outside perspective, I saw what they were doing. They had a ton of, like, from their perspective, they had a lot of clients, but they were charging them way too low. And so what happened is you just had a bunch of kind of non-committed clients that are just buying every now and then. Whenever you come in here and you raise your price to the value that it should, now I have clients who are committing, and I have repeat customers, and I'm narrowing down who's my customer.
That's good.
But it just, it provided that commitment that they needed, but they were too scared to do, so they lowered their price. And so many of us do that. We do it not just in pricing, we do it in our employee value, we do it in our day-to-day operations. You know, we lower it down because we're afraid of the result. Whenever we just call it what it is, and we're going to get more value, we're going to eliminate procedures, we're going to automate certain things, all of it. So know your value.
Beastmode's given you a really good example of a 300 or 400% sales increase that he helped a company with. I gave you the one about the theme park where I got the deal where they said it was impossible. What are the two common things with those? Both of them were ideas and insights that we had to have the courage to go present and provide. Yeah. And so one of the things I want to, also share with you guys is it's not just helping a customer to sort of like think about and crystallize what their problems are and also help them find new problems they weren't aware of. It's not also just providing new ideas for them, but it's also having the courage to present it. And if you think about it, all these things have psychological consequences. If they say no to your idea, what are you? You're still the guy or gal that had great ideas and thought enough and had enough empathy to share with them, right? So that's how you've now slotted yourself. You literally cannot lose by doing the homework, by documenting this for them, presenting it to them, having the courage to present to them in a kind and empathetic way, because sometimes their baby's ugly and it's hard to tell them that, so it is hard. But having the courage, they'll know that you're a person of courage, you're a person of care, you're a person of conviction, and you're a person of ideas. And so I feel like you're not going to lose in that process. Those two stories that Beastmode and I just gave, we've told them before, they wouldn't have come without the courage aspect of it. So you have to have not just empathy, but courage.
Yeah, very true. And you gotta be willing to, at the end of the day, you gotta be willing to say, here's my thoughts, and not it's a take it or leave it, but if you don't take it, that's okay. Because maybe you're going to come to find out later that you should have taken it, or maybe not. And then you save yourself from having a client who doesn't receive any input from you, which nobody wants.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually really good. Again, no work is lost. From my experience, I haven't really found a lot of work to ever be lost. And what Beastmode just said is really, really good. So what if you present that information to them and you get a negative reaction, right? Yeah. Which I had. There's a famous brand that you can go buy video games from. I'm not going to name any names. I did one of these things where I spent a lot of time providing insight, like so many hours in preparation. And I got a meeting with marketing, and marketing got defensive, and they asked that I never show up on site again. And all I did was suggest some product ideas for them and some things about their product line. I suggested that they start to do more drones, and they had some drones, but I suggested that they double down on that strategy because gaming as a console sort of thing is kind of fading. But they got really defensive about that, and I'll never forget it. And it really hurt. But now I've avoided that account in every company that I've worked for. I would be kicking and screaming to go sell to them because I've identified they are kind of famous for not being great to vendors. And I had to learn that the hard way. So yeah, I agree with what Beastmode just said. If they can't receive it, it might be a pretty good sign that they're not a great partner for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And better to learn that then than a couple of months in when they're still not receiving it. And now they're blaming you for their problems.
Oh, gosh. No question about it. You know, Beastmode, as I think about it, we've given the gals some pretty interesting, inspirational thoughts to hang their hat on and to kind of go think about problems, teaching perspectives from their vertical, that things that you're aware of, because like you said, you're the expert in the industry, so you can bring a lot of value. Also thinking about new opportunities for them, having the courage. But right now we're in a tough time. So this is more seasonality. We've got COVID, and as of this recording, they're starting to finally certify vaccines. I think there's 2 right now. So there may be, in the next few months, we may have more of a true herd immunity that's happening, but the damage to business is done. So, how can we help people sell more by helping their customers to recover? And I don't have a quick spotty answer for you right now. So I think we should think about it and try to get practical with what are some ways we can help people recover by helping their customers recover, because that's how you sell, is with, you don't sell to yourself, you sell to a customer. So yeah, what are some ways, whether that be, a B2C provider or a B2B provider, what are some interesting ideas we can kind of rap about real quick?
You want to rap about that now? Or should we leave the tease and come back?
We can. How are we doing on time?
We're about 30 minutes or almost 30 minutes in.
Oh, are we? Yeah, we probably can't dive into something that deep. So why don't you guys hit us up with on our new show email address with some of your thoughts and questions, and we'll share your ideas. I think one of the things that Beastmode really challenged me about before the show is there's several things, but one of the things was the empathy aspect of our approach. And it's a real thing. And so we would love to give you thoughts on your business and how you can grow and recover. We'd like to also help you think about ways to help your customers. So you can't name names. I mean, you can in the email. We'll just anonymize it. But we would love to actually answer your question. If you want to share your name on the show, list your name, or if you just want to say Brian from Dallas, that's okay too. You'll recognize your question. But why don't you guys think about priming the pump a little bit and giving us some of those strategies? We want to help people recover during this difficult time. My heart's broken. Beastmode's heart is broken. Hearing about businesses that are shutting, or businesses that have laid people off, or businesses that are trying to hang on. So why don't we have a workshop where we really talk about that recovery action, and we'll share your thoughts and your ideas and your questions live on the show, and then I think that'll make a big difference. So, yeah. Beastmode, what's our new show email?
Howie and A&D Beastmode at email.com. Speaking of live, maybe when we receive several of these feedback emails and comments from you guys, we'll do a live session and invite you to ask these questions real time and put us on the spot.
Ooh, I love that.
And get some real time feedback. We'll do that probably through Facebook, or maybe through YouTube. We'll see.
I love it.
So we'll see.